In this video, I will be talking about how to make the Austere new type 15-star variant. There is a difference from the 13-star one as well, and in this video, I'm going to give you guys a breakdown to the weapon potentials, the SAFs, the S-class abilities it can hold, how to make this, how to get these materials, etc, etc. You can look in the description for all those time skips. Note that I am going to be making this video a tad longer than most of the other ones because for the Japanese PSO2, if you had played the game in episode 1 through 3 and you have some of these old resources, you can technically use some of those old resources to try to get the new type variant and upgrade your old austere 13-star weapon into a 15-star weapon. But once again, this depends on you. If you want to view said information and you're playing on global, you can view it in the description for that time skip. If not, then, proceed onwards and look at whatever information you want to look at. Anyways, let's get started. Guess what? Zig is your main go-to guy when it comes to these upgrades or knowing what you need specifically. So if I wanted to try to make a partisan, I need to go to the right category selection. I'm going to go to striking, going to click on partisan, and then I want to find the austere. Over here in the Japanese PSO2, there are two ways to actually try to get an austere. Over there in global, just stick with the main way, or most likely you guys only have the old type variant for it, so you'll only have the usual method, the main method. If you're watching this, note that I'm going to cover the main global method first before I go into the Japanese method. So with this 15-star austere weapon, it's going to be at a new type plus 35. The thing is, you need to trade in several other weapon types at plus 35, and then you had to also trade in 400 X cubes. So you would need to trade in an evade spear new type plus 35, Ares partisan new type plus 35, Nemesis lance new type plus 35, slave lance new type plus 35, and then 400 X cubes. The austere 15-star new type has a good chunk of weapon potential. So if I go over here and I click on the third option, confirm weapon potential ability, you can see that there will be 4 different types. You got Phantasmal Darkness, and you also got Phantasmal Darkness Plus at level 3. So Phantasmal Darkness at level 3 boosts damage based on the Photon Blast gauge. When a Photon Blast is activated, a special effect occurs based on which Photon Beast was summoned. Once again, the plus is just going to be an upgrade to that regular variant. Now you also got Darkness Shield and Darkness Ward. Darkness Shield boosts damage by 9%, deploys a barrier that reduces damage at regular intervals, and then Darkness Ward pretty much does the same thing, boosts damage by 9%, but the only difference is it deploys a barrier that prevents knockback at regular intervals. And if I went to some other weapon type, let's say the range one, click on the bullet bow and look at the austere for this one, you can see that it has those same weapon potentials that you can aim for. When it comes to you changing it, guess what? You had to go through Monica and Ordudu, and then when you have that particular weapon, you want to change the potential, click on that option, click on your austere, and you can see that you can change it. It will ask for certain items here and there. When it comes to switching from Phantasmal Darkness to Darkness Shield and Darkness Ward, you can see that you just need to pay a good chunk of your Photon Spheres and a good chunk of Meseta. But when it comes to getting the plus variant of the Phantasmal Darkness Plus, you would need those fragments. This is in reference to episode 6, so you will have to wait if you are playing on global and you want to get that plus instead. When it comes to the SAF for the austere 15-star weapon, it will have a grade 6 ability. So if I check this fist weapon, for example, click on the SAF, you can see that it can give a power 6 at 100%. The stat is S attack plus 45, but in global terms, it's melee power plus 45. Most of the striking weapons will give you a grade 6 of a power. However, when it comes to the gun slash, it's a different story because it will give you shoot instead. You can see that it gives a shoot 6. So guess what? The range weapons will all be able to give you a grade 6 of a shoot. So if I went over here, or technically over there in global, it's called precision. You can see that it's going to be at a grade 6. And then guess what? If I check the technique ones, it's going to give you a casting grade 6. Or over here in Japanese PSO2, technique 6. Looking at the second tab of your weapon or of the austere, you can see that it can support the S1, S2, and the S3. Unlike several of the other 15-star weapons in-game, when you check the change weapon category, you can see that the austere does not have a weapon change category. You can, however, change the Ares, which is going to help you when you try to go for an Austere, but note that you cannot change the Austere into whatever weapon you would want to try to get. So you have to make sure that you get the very specific materials you need so you can get that specific weapon type for the Austere. Before I go into the details on how to make these Austeres, where to get these materials, you can get the Austere as a natural drop. Yes, you can get the 15 star to drop as it is, but once again, when it comes to getting an Austere as a natural drop, you cannot change whatever it is. So if it drops as a T attack stick, then it's stuck as a T attack stick. You cannot actually convert that into something else. Hopefully it drops a certain weapon type that you can work with. But yes, if you do, let's say for example over there in global, if you do at the highest difficulty, you play on Profound Darkness, there is a chance, a very small chance, for you to get the 15 star Austere weapon as a drop. Someone sent me a screenshot of it. I'm not going to show it because it has names and stuff, but there is a chance to get that as a natural drop, which means that you can skip all these different conversions and you trying to get these certain weapon series to plus 35. The same can be said with the Japanese PSO2, however, it's just a lot more quests can give you a higher chance of getting this Austere. There were several seasonal emergency quests that can give you the Austere 15 star as a natural drop. Some of them can give you the materials you need to try to go for an Austere. The big one that you would want to do over here in the Japanese PSO2 called Primordial Darkness, for example, that does have a chance to drop the Austere 15 star as it is. If I open up my storage, you can see that I have several other weapons that are Austeres, that are new type and are 15 star. I do have the one on my back, but this one I physically made because I have the resources to do so and I just wanted to make an Austere. But yes, it can drop naturally, so you might not need to go out of your way to get these materials, but ultimately it falls onto you and if you can get it as a drop. I would advise those who had played in the Japanese PSO2 in episode 3 very thoroughly and they still have the resources that they have, some of the old type weapons and stuff, look in the description for that specific time skip. If you are on the global side of things, or if you're still new to the game and maybe you haven't even played during that era, then just wait a few seconds. I'm going to go into details on how you can get these various materials. When it comes to the fixed method to get these particular weapons, you need to talk to this NPC. For global PSO2, she's actually on the second floor. Pretty much is going to be swapped around with the challenge mile attendant guy. But over here in Japanese PSO2, she's located right next to the recycle shop attendant guy and below Franca's cafe. So you gotta find her over here. The reason why I want to talk to her is because guess what? She has 3 of the weapon series that you need to try to go for an Austere. It is a fixed method, meaning that you don't need to deal with RNG. However, the one problem with doing this method is the currency and the fact that these weapons are not at a grind value of 35. If you're not familiar with grind values, I do have a video talking about it. You can also look in the description for that. Look in the upper right hand corner. But yeah, the grind value is not at 35, meaning that you need to buy multiple dupes of these other weapons, or the specific weapon you're trying to upgrade, and try to get it to plus 35. So do 400 times 6, and this is for one weapon series. It's 2,400. Now do 2,400 times 3. It's 7,200. Do you have 7,200 unique badges to try to get all 3 of these different weapon series to plus 35? If you do, then great, you can use it if you want, but I would say try to farm for this if possible. Or you could just buy it, depending on the price over there. And that kind of leads up to point number 2, but yes, you can technically have a fixed method to try to get this, and it's through this NPC. But once again, you need to figure out how to farm these other currencies. I know that when it comes to like some of the seasonal emergency quests over there, that's how you can get some of them, and then there's also your battle pass over there in the global PSO2. Note that if you are playing on the Japanese PSO2 and you try to find these specific weapon series through these exchanges, it's not going to be a thing. I'm going to show you guys right now. There will be other weapons that you might need for something else, especially with the Weapon Badge SP Exchange Shop 1 to help you try to get a light stream instead. But if you look at all these different Weapon Badge Exchange SPs, you will not see the Nemesis, the Slave, and or the invade weapons. Once again, there are several other ways to try to get these, and it's not through the weapon badge exchange. The original RNG way to try to get these is to do ultimate quests. Now, there are 3 main ultimate quests that you would want to try to do so you can get these different weapon series, or specifically the Ares, the Slave, Raven, and then the Nemesis. And it's to go to Nibiru's Lilliput and then Adaskia, the Dragon Plays. If I go over here, view quest records and check item records, you can see that they do drop. They have a chance to drop the Ares, but they also have a chance to drop the Slave and Nemesis. And the same can be said with the other 2 places as well. Now, a lot of people are spamming it over here in the Japanese PSO2 because there are alternative methods to try to get these various, various weapon series. So you can see Ares, Nemesis, and the Slave. This is kind of a heads up, but it's not a big spoiler. It's just that some seasonal emergency quests over here as well did drop a good chunk of these resources you need to try to go for an Austere. A big example of this is in the Driving Rain 2020. It dropped a good chunk of resources weapons that were directed to making an Austere weapon. It also gave a slim chance to get an Austere to drop naturally from that quest as well. Note that the second one is just to straight up buy the weapon series. Now, some of these may not be available yet over there in Global, or you can't really sell 14 stars just yet, but you will in due time, and then guess what? You can try to buy them. But yes, you can buy these weapons. So if I was trying to aim for an Austere sword, I would need to get all the components I need to try to get the Austere sword. Make sure you go for the new type if you are playing on the Japanese PSO2, because there is a difference from the old versus the new. Make sure it is a new type. If you're playing on Global, you don't need to worry about it as much, but if you're playing on the Japanese PSO2, make sure it is a new type. So as you can see, if I want to buy this Ares sword, I want to make sure the grind rarity is at 35. It's not at a high slot, but if I just want to get it just so I can do the conversion, then I can do this. So I would get that. Then with the Nemesis, I would want to try to get the Caliber because that's in reference to the sword. Once again, make sure it's a new type. You can see that this costs 157,500 Meseta. Grind value is at 35. Has a light element at 6. Light element at grind value 60. 7 slot, it's not that bad, so I can buy it as it is. It's not expensive. Now, next one will be the Raven. I called it Raven, but no, it's called the Slave over here, but it's Raven over there in the Global PSO2. Make sure it's a new type. Check it. Make sure that it has a grind value. Stare at the slots if need be in the element value. But I can buy this for a good 147,000 Meseta. Then there's the last weapon would be the Invade one. Make sure it's the new type. It's the sword. 126,000 Meseta. Light element 60. Grind value 35, and then 6 slot. Once again, this ultimately falls on you. The prices might be still high over there in Global, but yes, you can buy these weapon series so you can try to aim for an Austere. Before I conclude the Global portion of this, I do need to bring up the Ares new type series exchange, aka the change weapon category. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you get a particular 14-star Ares that isn't what you need for a final conversion to an Austere, then you can change its weapon type. So if you have a bunch of partisans, but instead of getting a partisan, you get an Ares sword, don't fret. Guess what? You can change the weapon. You can change that Ares sword into a partisan, but all you need to do is make sure you have these certain crafting materials. Now, when it comes to getting these particular materials, you can look in the upper right hand corner or in the description. That goes further into details about desynthesizing and why you would want to make sure you desynth a good chunk of stuff and what it can do later on for these future upgrades. But yes, you can change the Ares 14-star to a particular weapon, which then can help you get into an Austere. And that concludes this portion on how you can get the Austere using these methods. The main method, the not in episode 3 old method sort of dealio. Go ahead and look at the description for the conclusion time skip. The rest of this video is going to talk about the alternative method. So if you did click on the time skip and you had played on the Japanese PSO2 in episode 3, then I'm going to have to give you a bow and acknowledge your presence, just because 1, you were in those certain times where shit was pretty fucking hard. And then secondly, just because you might be coming back into the game, maybe you're not playing on Japanese PSO2, you're playing on Global. But hey, look, if you were farming during the episode 3 era, then I want to give you a shout out at the very least and acknowledge your presence. So yeah, let me be blunt with you guys. Don't try to do these old conversions, these old methods. It's entirely up to you if you want to go through the past maybe, or you have a bunch of resources that you can spend and you won't worry about it as much. That's up to you. Depends on what you have. But in all honesty, buy some of this stuff. You don't want to try to do some of these old conversions and try to go through old type grinding again, because that thing is a fucking monster. Anyways, let me carry on and talk about these different conversions though, just because it is a thing over here to Japanese PS2. If you play on global, it's not a thing. And if you decide to click on the time skip and you want to see the main ways to try to get these things, look back at the time skip and go to the global method that I suggested, or that I talked about earlier. I did not want to exit out of you. So here's the thing. If I wanted to go for the partisan again, there is another option. Right above the new type plus 35, where you had to trade in all these different weapon series for it, you can see that there is one option. So you can actually trade in your old type 13-star Austere weapon along with several of these new types, aka the Slave, Nemesis, and the Ares. And then you also need to trade in 400 X cubes. If you do have some of these old type variants that are already at grind level of 40, then you can go down here to exchange them along with several other new types, so you can get that weapon from like that plus 40 to become a new type plus 35. Now you might want to pay attention to the grind value and the slots, but that depends on you. Most likely your Austere is going to be the main factor in your slots, in your element value, and then the element type that it is, along with its grind value. But you will want to make sure at the very least that this weapon, the old type weapon you are going to exchange in, is at least at grind value of 40. Now if you haven't done that yet, I would say don't do it. Just avoid it and just go and buy a new type instead. It shouldn't be that bad. But once again, this falls on you and what resources you have. And the same can be said with the Nemesis. So to get the Partisan, the Austere Spear, for example, I would want to try to get the Nemesis Lance, the old type variant of it, at plus 40, and then trade in 3 other Nemesis new type weapons. It doesn't have to be a lance specifically. It can be whatever Nemesis weapon it is. Trade it in, and then I can get a Nemesis Lance new type at plus 35 with the things that's going to carry over. And then the last thing you need to do is get the Ares. Now, the thing about the Ares is that there is no conversion from the old type to the new type. There is a way to change the Ares weapon if you do get one. For example, let's say you did get an Ares to drop, you can change its weapon category. So if it was a sword and you need to get a partisan, guess what? You can trade in that sword along with these materials, the Gonaias and Sulfurs, which you need to desynth a good chunk of 13-star rarity weapons, and you can get these materials. But you also need to make sure it's the melee weapon, because it's Gonaias. Like if you were trying to do the range weapons and the technique ones, you would need other ones. You'll need the gold disc for the gold disc for the where are you? Actually, that wasn't change weapon category. Let me go back to Ares and let me scroll down here. Yeah, gold disc for the range ones, and then for the techniques, it's gold Grimo. But yeah, make sure you desynth the right weapon type, and then you can get these materials, and then you can trade it in, and then you can get that specific Ares weapon. But you have to farm or buy the new 14-star new type variant of the Ares. But guess what? Once you have everything, you can exchange it in so you can get the Austere 15-star weapon. This thing over here. As long as it's the new types. Now, you don't need to worry about the invade because you already have the Austere. If you really want to, if you have a bunch of the old stones, especially from the old Ultimate Quest runs, where it's like the Golora stones and the, what is it called? I don't know if I have those stones. Yeah, these stones right here, and then this U one over here, I think it's this one. You can get rid of them, or like, you know, do whatever you need to do with them. You can spend those crystals up here at this shop attendant over here, You can click on these Aries Stone exchange. Well, this is for Aries Stone if you really want to trade it in, but I advise you to hold on to them. You can see that these are the old type variants because they are at a 13-star rarity, but you can trade it in these stones over here so you can get these old types if need be. But once again, this is on you. I would advise you not to do it. Don't go back to old type grinding. Stick with new type grinding. It's better in a way. If you have a bunch of old resources you want to spend and you just want to do for shits and giggles, that's on you. But that's pretty much it when it comes to the conversion. The other conversion method to try to get the Austere. And that wraps up this video talking about the Austere 15-star and how to make it, how to proceed forward, etc, etc. This is the easiest 15-star to actually make compared to several other 15 stars. If you have any question, comment, concerns, put it down below. I'll see you guys at the next one. Peace.